Good morning, Wade.
Morning.
And you know what? Tonight's topic, bro, I think it's apt for everything that's happening, don't you think?
Okay. Sorry, what's that?
I think tonight's topic is very apt for everything that's happening right now, don't you think?
There's a lot of things happening right now. We could do a lot of subjects on just current events because the world is a little bit nuts.
Yep, but tonight the topic that we are broadcasting is none other than about war magic. And this is a topic that have we been broadcasting? Wait a minute. Yes, we are. Sorry. And this is a topic that I think that it's kind of perfect for current events right now because there's war all over the place, unjustifiable war, and it gets to a point where sometimes two mages just knuckle up and go at it. And with this regard, I just wanted to ask you some questions about it. Like, when we talk about war magic, basically we're talking about using magic destructively to attack another person, their institution, their finances, etc., and just basically raise holy hell on them. It's throwing the kitchen sink at them. So, with that, I wanted to ask you, what's your definitive understanding of the word war magic?
Well, well, this is something that's actually been a lot of my experience, especially when you live in a bigger city. You're going to be you're going to be running into a bunch of other magicians a lot, and you're going to end up, running afoul of other magicians a
Mm-hmm.
lot, especially when you get into groups and you have group politics. So it gets, conflict just becomes par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even have to be a direct conflict. It could be something like, well, I'm trying to get this camping ban passed by the city council because I've got people that are like literally camping out in my front yard, and they threatened one of my kids with a knife when they asked them to you know they asked my kid for their lunch, and she said no. So I want to get this camping ban passed, and someone else is like, well, I'm advocating for, so I'm trying to get this ban to fail at the city council. So you're going to be head to head with other people all the time. That's just what
Mm-hmm.
it's like living in a city. So especially when you have like a magical community, you're going to be in conflict with other people, directly or indirectly, maybe 2/3 of the time. And there is a whole school of magic around how to resolve these conflicts so that you can better, get your will accomplished. So,
So the question is
yeah, I
this:
mean,
Is it
that's actually something that's been a big part of my resume.
does it boil down to ideological differences all the time, or are there other reasons that people engage in war magic?
Oh my God. Ideology, politics. Sometimes it's two guys want the same girl. Nobody knows how to share. Somebody wants this one person out of their house. Like if you have a group household and one person isn't playing well with the others, it there's any number of reasons. I mean, you ask 10 people why they have conflicts with other magicians, you're going to get 15 different answers.
Like you from your experience though, what would you say is the most common cause for the use of war magic?
More often than not, it's a personality conflict.
Mm-hmm.
One person is just an asshole
Mm-hmm.
and runs afoul of other people, and they try to either get him to go away or stop his behavior or at least try to mitigate the damage from what he's doing. So yeah, I mean, a lot of that is going to be just straight personality conflicts.
If I'm going to pull up the literal definition of war magic is the use of magical, spiritual, psychological, symbolic, ritualistic, or energetic practices, specifically intended to influence conflict, dominance, protection, destruction, manipulation, victory, survival, or power dynamics between individuals, groups, nations, or forces. And not sure if you've heard of it, but like during World War II, there was a lot of talk from Dion Fortune about what they called the magical battle
Magical
of
Battle of
Britain.
Britain.
What's
Yes.
your take on that? Was that real, or was that was just part of her imagination?
That was absolutely real. In fact, the coven that I was initiated into in Gardnerian was actually hived from a hive from a hive. It was like 3 or 4 generations descended from one of the covens that was attacking Germany.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's been pretty much ascertained that Nazi Germany was really neck deep into the occult. No thanks to Himmler, and Hitler himself liked occult practices, so he pretty much had his own juju going up to him, right?
Oh, any country that's at war is going to have their own spiritual counterpart of that same war. I mean, I guarantee you right now, there's wizards in Iran that are sending, you know, efforts and Marids and all of their wind demons to
Hmm.
push the U.S. out.
True, very true. And it's even funny because, like, shout out to Dr. Jeremy Weiss. We talked about it once that even in Israel, there was a very powerful ritual called the Pulsa Dinora that was so powerful that they used it to like it was a combination effort to remove, I think, one of their prime ministers. So it shows that in the higher hierarchies of things, magic is used constantly in war. Because like part of the definition we go to is at its core, war magic is usually not just casting spells to hurt people, which is a very big misnomer that they think, oh, war magic is just magical shit kicking. No, it's not. War magic usually includes protection against hostile intent, psychic defense, influence persuasion, fear projection, symbolic domination, strategic timing, morale enhancement, group egregors, and collective beliefs. That's very common nowadays, too, especially here in the Philippines. Rituals for courage, aggression, or victory, breaking enemy cohesion, spiritual intimidation, and creating psychological pressure. So, with that being said, I wanted to ask you: do you think that war magic was employed in the creation of movements like MAGA and QAnon?
Well, since it's heavily based in Christian nationalism
Mm-hmm.
and very much against any other religion or non-religious practices, I don't think that they had a large contingent of
Mm-hmm.
people that are spiritually like working magic to make MAGA happen. But with all the Christians, especially the Christian nationalists,
Mm-hmm.
that were praying for this, there's definitely a spiritual component, but they're essentially, in this case, using necromancy to try and get the saints and Jesus and all of their other egregores in on establishing MAGA as a philosophical force
Or they could have
and to
just
be
been
the
using
main
faith.
political party in America. They're trying.
Yeah. Or they could have just used faith based magic, right? Which is pretty much likely what they did.
It's the same thing.
All right. All right. Because like, the next thing I wanted to ask you, if war magic is real, what separates actual influence from paranoia and coincidence, especially in war magic scenarios?
Oh, paranoia is a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather always used to say, well, paranoid people die peacefully of old age, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I take that to heart because if you're always looking for whoever's coming up on you, it's pretty hard to come up on you.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, a lot of war magic is propaganda. It's the
True.
psych out. You know, when someone is a street preacher is out there and he's talking about how God's going to smite the gays and he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and you just walk up to him and you have put like two fingers of paint and you just put little lines on his cheeks and then you walk away. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
freak the hell out, even though you literally did nothing.
You just put something on him.
Yeah. Yeah, and or if you walk up and you have like a handful of powder and you
Yeah.
blow dust at him, he's gonna immediately think he's been cursed. He's gonna, go into his whole defensive routine, and then any time like over the next couple of months, something unusual happens to him. He's like, "Oh man, that guy and that handful of dust."
Yep.
Whether it happened or not, or whether he's really giving it credence, that's going to be on his mind.
Yeah, because
So a
hello,
big
Sheen.
part of it is breaking their morale.
Not just that too. You also have to consider. Hello, Sheena. Welcome to the show. Part of it is one of the biggest tactics that I learned that you could use when doing war magic is convince the opponent to curse themselves. Right.
Yeah.
That's why paranoia is very important, because it's like if I told Sheena right now, all right, Sheena, you gone and done it. You gone and pissed off me and Wade, and we're coming after you. We don't even need to do the magical component, because if she believes within her that we're coming after her, her own mind will feed that scenario. And we don't even need to pay for it karmically. What more
Mm-hmm.
if you and I got out the big guns? You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is that people, you know how when you have the moment when you're in like doing trance work or whatever, that there's that one moment. Chaos magicians call it gnosis, but
Yeah.
there's a specific point where everything is possible, and whatever it is that you're thinking of at that moment now becomes a spell,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's something that's positive and workable and can actually happen. I mean, if you're imagining, oh, I'm going to sprout wings and fly to the moon, well, probably not.
Yeah. It has to
But
be within the realm of possibility.
exactly. And I mean, we slip in and out of gnosis all the time. So if you get a person thinking about that, they're literally going to be casting that spell on themselves all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Every time,
And I
like
tell
they're driving down the highway, and their brain kind of slips off the wheel, and they start thinking about it, and then they start like imagining scenarios, and they're crafting that whole thing against themselves.
true. I mean, I like to tell people in my defensive occultism course that you have zero protection from yourself. Think about that. If you're
Yeah.
casting magic on yourself, ain't nothing gonna, no banishing ritual, no nothing can protect you from a self-inflicted curse. Because this is gonna bring me to my next question. What are the most historically documented examples of war magic being used in ancient civilizations that you know of?
Wow. Well, not even so much an ancient civilization, but the foundation of Haiti, the Haitian Revolution.
Yep.
They summoned all of the voodoo gods, and they were like, "Yeah, we're getting rid of this government, and we're taking over," and it happened.
That's a good example. It's a very good example. Because
I mean, there's very few actual magocracies left in the world. There is Haiti and Tibet, and Tibet is kind of, you know, it's. I mean, their leaders in exile. The nation exists, but the physical country is kind of being taken over.
which makes me curious though, like, do you think that magocracies could continue to return in the future, or are just the magicians always going to play second fiddle to political leaders moving into the future?
Honestly, I think it's more common than you think, because I mean, every country has their own, spiritual advisors
Mm-hmm.
who are there to kind of, be like the brain trust that on in a spiritual sense, they're going to be there, kind of, whispering in the king's ear and influencing them and getting them kind of so it's like they're not directly controlling it, but there is also, the idea of, well, how easy it is to rig an election, because you don't have to control the voters, you control the people that count the votes.
True. Very true.
So yeah, there could easily be, I mean, there's two open magocracies in the world, but there could be a lot more,
Yeah.
indirect.
Actually, I think for you're talking about an open magocracy, maybe two, maybe three. But if you're talking about like The role that magic plays in the political landscape, I think almost every country has one person or the other. It goes back to even like the medieval times. All kings and queens have their quote unquote court wizard.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
can I bring me?
but in terms of a magocracy, though, would be like where the country is directly controlled by the highest ranking wizard.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon
You know.
because they're too easily killed. It brings me to my third question for you, Wade. Can war magic work purely through psychology and symbolism without any supernatural aspect involved?
Well, that brings us into the realm of lesser magic,
Uh huh.
which is not it's not technically magic, but the effects are magical. If that makes a
Mm-hmm.
difference.
Yeah.
Like if you are setting up your ritual, your client comes to you and you put candles in the holders and you straighten your wicks out and you lay your cards down and the candles light themselves. It's a magic trick. But
Mm-hmm.
for the client, it immediately puts them into gnosis
Yep.
because some shit has happened that they can't explain. And now, just for a moment, everything is possible. And that's a great way to stimulate gnosis in another person, is to, do something that basically breaks the laws of physics for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. So theatricality and
especially if
deception.
you're using your intuition. Like,
Mm-hmm.
client comes into your shop and you're just like, oh, coming in, you have a birthday coming up. Is this going to be your birthday reading? And they didn't tell you anything about their birthday. They didn't even tell you their name, but they do have a birthday coming up, which, let's face it, you've got a 1 in 12 chance of getting their birthday coming up. So, but you say that, but immediately they're just like, oh my God, this person knows so much.
Mm-hmm.
And, but honestly, if you get, say, 300 people into your shop in a day, chances are you're going to tell someone it's their birthday and it's their actual birthday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's when you do things like that, that gets you into the realm of lesser magic. But it does still work because it stimulates gnosis in the client, or in the case of war magic, it stimulates gnosis in your victim.
Not just that, too. Also, that when they start believing in you in that level, they're actually giving you energy. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah.
Like you taught me this years ago. They always take credit for the weird stuff because number one, if they're accusing you of weird shit, it only means they thought you did it to begin with. There's no point in trying to rebut them because they're already convinced. You see what I mean? Convinced
Mm-hmm.
enough to accuse you. And I like to tell this to people, especially with war magic, you got to stay grounded. If you think this person is sending every single demon from the Goetia after you, you're right. If you're thinking that this person doesn't know shit and there's nothing they can do to fuck with you, you're right. You don't want to feed them energy. You don't like it's just like getting into a fist fight. If you're going to get into a fist fight and you're going to fear that person, chances are you're going to fuck things up. But if you say, you know what, no, I'm going down swinging, it's going to make a huge difference. Because the next question I want to ask you is, what would happen if two highly skilled practitioners intentionally worked against one another? Like they pulled in all the stops. Nothing physical, just all magical.
Honestly, this is something that I've also seen in the past, is that it's extremely difficult to take out a magician with magic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like I tell people, it's like trying to drown a fish. That's their element. So you have to change the quality. Like, you can drown a fish. Okay,
Yeah.
that is possible. But the idea is you have to take all the oxygen out of the water. So
Which
you
is a
have
lot
to
harder.
sour their magic. You have to, like, find out, like, where their base of power is.
Mm-hmm.
It's their house, their temple, their family. Maybe it's just an artifact that they wear, something
Maybe
that
it's the
you
pen.
can taint, that you can
Yeah.
add your energy to it, and they're taking that in on them. One of the easiest ones that I used to do was I called it the poison penny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I don't even know how well it would work these days after COVID, but I would take like, chalk and write a sigil on a dollar bill or even on a quarter, and you leave it on the sidewalk in front of their house. Now,
Mhm.
it's only a quarter, but they're going to stop and pick it up. Although now, with the dollar being worth about 16 cents, and people with COVID quit using cash, that one's not so easy. But if you could leave something that they would pick up,
Mhm.
and then you just put the sigil on it, because not only will they immediately take it and accept it, they'll guard it from other people taking it.
Yep.
So you'd want to find something that they want, something that they will draw into themselves, something that they'll take ownership of, and just take that, rather than try to engage them directly.
So basically, you want to make a mousetrap, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
All
mean, you
right.
could even do something like wait until they leave and put sigils on the bottom of their doormat.
But doesn't that
Anything that will add your energy next to them and wait for them to take it.
But wouldn't that also risk turning a irritated enemy into a vicious one? Example, like if somebody hexed your dog or your children and you know that they did it, I mean, wouldn't that make you bloodlust? And this doesn't that make it even more dangerous?
Oh yeah, escalation is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had an acquaintance who once bragged about how they survived the Salem witch wars, and I guess there was
Mm-hmm.
a big witch war in Salem, which apparently culminated with somebody mailing Lori Cabot a box of dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
You throw in the trash. That's But there was also, I was present during, or I was actually involved in lodge wars in the Bay Area where people actually died.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that can happen with that.
Can you go into
You know,
that? What were the lodge wars like in the Bay Area, and usually like how did it start and how did it resolve?
well, without naming names, there was a sudden rash of car accidents,
Mm-hmm.
like over a 2 week period, um, myself included. But that seemed to be the weapon of choice, because three very influential people in our lodge had near fatal car accidents, and one person actually had a fatal car accident.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people who survived had, you know, traumatic brain injury that just never recovered from, and you know, everyone else. I was the only one who actually walked out of the car completely unscathed. I don't know how that happened,
And
but
like what were the
it,
what were
it
the
does happen.
what were
Sorry,
the
what's that?
attack scenarios? What were the attack scenarios like? Was it like were you guys actively doing rituals against them? Were you doing low magic? Were you sending goetic demons? Were you using Enochian entities? I don't know if they could do that. I mean, I'd be surprised if they can. But what were some of your methods without giving away how? But like, what were the avenues in which you chose to counterattack?
Oh, everybody was doing their own specialty. There were Ebony had demon traps set up in his house,
Mm-hmm.
and he was having to clear them out every day. Eventually, I had to set up a redirect to bring them from his place to my place,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just put them to work. But my favorite thing was to astrally project into their temple and banish their wards.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing that because I was a dick. That was fun.
That's pretty cool. If you're actually adept at astral projection, you can enter their space and remove any kind of positive wards.
You see, here's the thing. This is why physical symbolism is so important. Because, say, if you set up, wards that you picture them to be mirrors, well, that's great. Mirrors reflect heat and light. They don't do anything against cold and dark.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've limited yourself by the use of, say, well, it's okay, so it's a brick wall. Let's do that. Well, that's great. But brick also has its things. Now there's no light can get in, no light can get out. You've kind of
Mm-hmm.
trapped yourself in here. So what these people had done was they had built their temple heavily warded. They had, wards on everything, and everything was all shielded and lined off. But they had an air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
So what does an air conditioner do? If you think about it, it pulls in air from the outside. That's literally what it does. And as a symbol, it is an open portal straight through your wards. That's just a non-brainer right there.
Exactly.
So with no kind of cover on it or anything, you can even project near it and it will pull you in because of what it is as a symbol.
When it comes to the whole war aspect, so like one of our guests, Bob Freeman, said that like using demons in war magic is like using a weapon of mass destruction. Is this something that you agree or disagree? Because like, would the demon turn on you, or what's your take on it?
Well, I mean, demons are they're like soldiers, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an extension of your will to send another being in there. But when you do it, you imbue them. When you summon a spirit, the um the act of summoning it basically imbues it with your consciousness. So
Yep.
you're sending a conscious sentient being into conflict. And this was where I used to do the redirect.
Mm-hmm.
I had my black mirror set up in my temple and everything, and I had to pull the demons away that were coming to Ebony's place. I set up a smaller black mirror in his place to pull them through into mine, and then I'd interview them. Go in there, you check it out, and like you walk in and you do your opening rituals, and you uncover the mirror, and there's just this mass of faces pressed up against it. And you're just like, okay, guys, look, you know why you're here, because the guy who summoned you sent you here to die.
Mm-hmm.
So I can either banish you or torture you or imprison you, or you can just work for me. And every single time they will work for you. So sending a demon into conflict, if you have a clever opponent, that's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you've just basically handed him a loaded gun.
True. It's going to bring me to my next question. What are the warning signs that someone believes they are under magical attack versus ordinary fear, obsession, and anxiety? So, like, how do you tell the difference between just being paranoid or you've like some warning signs, like, dude, some shit, they're sending some shit your way?
Usually what will happen is if you get, and it's not about like paranoia, like hearing noises in the house or hearing whispers in the house, because this happens all the time. Usually it's if you have a negative energy that's being directed at you,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have some physical signs like, your milk going bad in the fridge, eggs going bad. Uh, Usually there'd be an energy of decay.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you start suddenly smelling mildew around the house,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get signs like that, like everything around you is rotting. Your plants are dying. Your pets are being lethargic or sick, or having like eye infections and stuff. You'll notice there'll be like a theme around your house of you know general decay.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually a pretty good indication, especially if it's all of those things at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good indication that you need to do some uncrossing and set up some wards.
What are some of the easiest forms of uncrossing people can do?
Oh, you can do like, boil some hyssop in water and, take like an uncrossing bath. If you don't have a bath, go through and you take your shower and whatever, and then just kind of pour that over your head to rinse at the end of your
Mm-hmm.
shower. Make sure, you get it all over you. baths are usually one of the easiest ways to uncross because you also kind of straighten your hair out.
Yeah,
And you should uncross, every now and then just because.
true.
Whether someone's doing magic on you or not, if someone runs up on you and they grab your hair and they tie it in knots, okay, now your hair is all tangled up. But if you walk outside and it's windy, it's going to blow your hair around. It's going to get all tangled up just the same. The effect is the same, but it isn't that there was a person consciously doing it to you.
Hmm.
So you go through, just do some uncrossing now and then because life is messy. And
Yep.
every now and then you get a little tangled up. And before it becomes dreadlocks, you want to be able to get that all straightened out.
You never know what you're picking up energetically or what people are sending your way. And an uncrossing bat's very helpful. Like here in the Philippines, since a lot of people have showers instead of bathtubs, you can take a tabo, which is like a pail, and then you could place your uncrossing oil, like a couple drops of it, into the water to your bath, and at the end, you could pour it over your head and like pour it away, downwards and away. The brushing is very important because this is going to send things away. Now, one thing I've also noticed, and for those of you interested, Must Be the Voodoo has very, very good uncrossing oil. If all of a sudden, after you've done that, if you had some uncrossing oil, you place it in the tabo or in the cup, and then when you pour it over yourself at the end, if you've noticed that there's this feeling of almost elated release, like you feel so happy that you could laugh, chances are something was crossing you. That happened to me one
Yeah.
time. That like I don't know what was wrong. I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to use some uncrossing oil. I'm doing uncrossing bath, and right after doing it, I was laughing maniacally, which means holy crap, who knows what I was carrying at that time. Now, what
Yeah.
I'm going to ask next is, what are the safest, most practical ways for an ordinary person to protect themselves spiritually, psychologically, and emotionally from hostile intent from magicians?
Oh, boundaries. If
Mm-hmm.
you set up, even if you live in a house with other people, you can set these up in your room or even around your own bed.
Mm-hmm.
Just having wards up. And that can be as simple as taking, nails, or I don't know how commonly available railroad spikes are in the Philippines. But out here, since we have a bunch of failed railroads, we got railroad spikes everywhere. So what you do is you take a bunch of them, and say if you have like a large enough property, you want to have like 6 or 8 of these spikes,
Mm-hmm.
and you write your name on them, and you kind of like lay them around you in a circle, and you do like your circle casting or whatever you do to establish sacred space,
Yep.
and you put these along the boundary of your property. I mean, at least the corners, but if you
Yeah.
could do like 3 on a side or whatever, and get that whole thing laid out. And if you really want to get zesty with it, you go out and you put a spike in the ground, and then you pee on it like a dog, because now this is your territory.
Yeah. The very bare
And
minimum would be the four cardinal directions.
exactly, yeah, you want to, well, you want to at least have the corners, because if
Mm-hmm.
you just picture like a cord being stretched between them, you go out and you set it down,
Mm-hmm.
and out there at the corner. So then you've actually laid claim to your own property, and everything inside it is you. And then you can go
Mm-hmm.
through and do like your sage walks and whatever, and make sure that nothing in there is not yours.
Very true. All right. Now it's going to bring back to the big question I asked you earlier. And this is all hypothetical. This is not meant to disrespect anybody. I mean, all shout out to all of our friends from Thelema, but I'm using this as an example of Aleister Crowley. We go back in time. And Wade, you have run across Aleister Crowley, and he's got it out for you. Now, you can't kick his ass. You can't burn his house to the ground. That's mundane solution. You know this is going to be an all-out, one-on-one magical slobber knocker, or let's just say an all-out slobber knocker magically between you and him, knowing that he was one of the greatest
Slobbered
magicians.
knocker.
Slobber knocker, just it's a MMA term. So, with that being said, how are you addressing such a mage in a combative aspect?
Well, the first thing I would do is uh, cut off his support.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone around him that might help him. If he's part of a lodge, you work on either powering down his lodge or getting them to throw him out. Plant some sigils around his house. If I can't burn the house down, I can at least put some sigils out there so that it's tainted with my energy.
Mm-hmm.
If it was Crowley, I would take out Victor Newberg
Okay,
because
why?
that was his star apprentice / girlfriend. So, if you can get them off their game, because a big part of magician's power is his sense of security. So if you can get him distracted, get him off his game, get rid of his lodge, get rid of his girlfriend, get his publisher to drop him, burn his house down. Things like that. They keep him distracted, keep him off base, and he's chasing little other, like when they would have in the movies when they're hunting the good guy and he's hiding and he throws a rock into the woods and they hear it and they go running off after it. Things like that.
Uh-huh.
You're basically keeping him distracted, keeping him off his game, and letting you, since it's very difficult to attack him directly, you can attack the things that he relies on.
But don't you think, as such a powerful experienced mage, he'd also be kind of aware of this? So don't you think it's kind of like the equivalent of punching Brock Lesnar in the face? That like because you said earlier when we talked about it that like he'd have a shit ton of hit points. So
Well,
how would you address that?
it's more like punching Brock Lesnar's wife. Yeah,
Ooh,
he's going to be really pissed off, but he's also going to be wondering if she's okay.
okay.
So, yeah, you've really pissed him off, but he's going to take care. He's going to be like trying to make sure his wife is okay, at which point you run over and you punch his kid.
Ooh.
Now he's looking at getting his whole family out of there and away from you.
So he's focusing more on securing than counterattacking, right?
Exactly. My welding instructor, Mr. Lou, back at Red Rock, he got in a. Now this guy was like this tall. I mean, he was really, really short little Italian guy. He said he got picked on by this big bully in school, and it was every day. So he kicks this guy just above the ankle, hard as he could, and the guy, basically knocked him out. And the next day, the guy comes up to him and he kicks him again, right in the same spot. The guy's jumping around. He runs over and kicks him again, right in the same spot. And he took 3 or 4 whoopings out of it. But eventually, that guy realized, like, he's going to keep hitting me in that same spot, and he left him alone. So
Like
if you can, the point is, you make it to where they're going, even if they know they can beat you one-on-one, you make it to the point where they start to take unacceptable losses.
Yeah, attrition.
Yes.
Now here's the thing I'm going to ask you. Like, knowing what you know about Uncle Al, how do you think he would have hit you back if you had a one-on-one? Like, what do you think he would have done?
Well, he actually documented a lot of the different magical fights he was in. If you read, it's actually funny. If you read Moonchild, you can see very thinly veiled references to all the people he had beef with. And what's funny is that all the good guys were different aspects of his personality. So he was the entire good lodge, and all of the bad guys were like, Mathers and White and all of the other, or Waite, and all of the other people from his past conflicts. But if there's he talked about how in the Goetia the spirits were the aspects of the unconscious mind, which is
The psychological model.
it's almost correct. It's almost correct. It was very close. But he talked about destroying your enemies by exciting your compassion to remove them from your list of enemies by making them your friend. So he had a really peculiar take on magical conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really difficult to see how he would respond. Um, I know how I would go about taking him out, but I don't know exactly what it would be that he would do in response. Maybe
Because
he
like,
would try to win me over, to get me to be his friend, to kiss my ass until I stopped kicking his.
well, that's another thing. Because like, you have to imagine with all he's achieved at Thelema. Like, imagine like in this day and age, if it was going to be a one-on-one between you, he's got quite a few people he could call upon who've got their own followings. I mean, badasses like Lon, like Marco Visconti, like Dr. Ian Edwards, have all written about them. It's like, and these guys carry their own weight. And that's where it gets ugly, because it's like now he's calling in their generals, and like if it got that bad, like you're fighting against Crowley, and he's calling in heavy hitter support, then what do you do? I mean, do you go full blown Paulo Mayombe? I mean, do you try to fight them within their own system, or do you pull in another system that they're not familiar with?
Oh, it's not even about systems, because ultimately the system that you're working with is really just the filter that you're pushing your will through
Uh-huh.
to what's the word I'm looking for, to basically stimulate your magical response
Yeah.
to the so the system is almost irrelevant in terms of practical magic. But
Mm-hmm.
once you get, because we've had this exact conflict when there's two OTO lodges or two covens or two different traditions working against each other, and it's not a matter of the system that they use, but the key element is to get your primary antagonist separated from their group.
Mm-hmm.
You got to cut them from the herd. Like, if he's trying to say, well, we need to have the entire OTO, or at least the top brass, focused on destroying this group, then, everyone's going to get involved with it. But if you can get that guy disgraced or thrown out or somehow shut down, that removes the order from that removes basically that attack on you,
So
because now they
basically,
have to act alone.
since we're dealing with Crowley as the example, again, this is all hypothetical. I mean, all respect to the great beast. Um, Knowing that he is like a prophet of Thelema and you're going head to head with him, would you opt to use Thelemic magic against him, or would you say, fuck this, I'm going to do Paulo Mayombe?
Well, you could actually invoke his true will. You could
Mm-hmm.
address his HGA directly and say, "Hey, is this actually what you want him to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want him to be, you know, creating the new Aeon in the world, which I'm also in support of?"
Mm-hmm.
So if it was me, if I was trying to use Thelema back against him, I would probably go directly to his HGA and petition him and just say, like, look, this guy is not doing his will. I'm trying to do mine. We're both supporting the same thing. This guy is the fly in the peanut butter.
Uh-huh. Well, that's pretty amazing, and that was a lot to think about. I mean, it shows that the whole concept of war magic has been misunderstood. It's not just hex slamming; it's reputational attack, it's morale boosting, it's morale draining, it's cutting people off from their groups. It's what else? It's even mental fatiguing. All of these things, anything that kind of just can slow down the operations or boost your operations, can be considered war magic if put within the right paradigm. And I do think it's a topic that for further discussion in future episodes. But
Well,
before then,
one
I'm
other thing that was mentioned that, as a follow up to that, like, say, if you can get someone cut off from their group, you also have to follow that up with something. I mean, you
Mhm.
can't. It's not enough to just go into the chat room for Rob's super happy coven and be like, Rob pees the bed, and then run away. Even if you get people alienated from, you have to replace that with something positive that actually does better for them, or else they just go right back because that's what they know.
Exactly, because people don't
So
like a vacuum.
yeah, it would, you have to bring something to the table once you start working with groups. You have to be a way, like you actually have to be better than the other person if you're trying to go that route.
True. Like I said, it's
Like
something that
when you recruit their demons that they send to you, you're like, hey, look, he sent you to die. I can actually have you employed and doing, real things that need done.
another way of looking at it. Like I said, this is a topic that I feel is extensive, and I think we could actually write a lot of stuff about it and talk a lot about stuff about it on Reels. And before I forget, though, tonight I want to give credence to the big man, King Belial, the patron of Magic.tv. This show is dedicated to him always, right there. And for those of you who are into goetic demonology, if you have the juice and you are willing to make a life-changing commitment, he's a king that delivers. I mean, honestly speaking, I have no negative qualms of working with him. Just show him respect. Don't treat him like some sort of bitch, because he will make you his bitch. I mean, I call him the warlord for a reason. But aside from that, Wade, it's always an honor working with you, and I'm looking forward to another episode in a week or two. All right, bro?
All right.
All
Enjoy
right.
your
Don't
evening.
go anymore. Just going to shut this down.